Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast explores the transition to net zero and the systems driving real change in how we move, live and power our world. Every week I sit down with the people leading that change, those offering insight, innovation and impact in many ways people don't fully see until they hear their stories. If you're ready for real conversations that inspire action and drive change, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey. And let's cut through the noise and build a better future together. So on today's episode I have with me Steve Robinson, and he's the Director of EV and Future Mobility at Hyperion Search. Steve, it's so lovely to have you on here. We've known each other for probably about 2 or 3 years now, haven't we?
We have indeed, Liz. Good to see you again, by the way. I think it was Cenex about 3 years ago. We'd known each other before then, but that was the first time we met. And it was like one of these events where you just head down so busy, and we rubbed shoulders, and I was like, Liz, we knew each other's face but hadn't seen each other in person. So
oh my God, I'd forgotten that. And it was such a hot day as well, wasn't it? It was really hot. Everybody was sweltered in that kind of marquee thing. It was
roasting. The suit jacket was off pretty quickly, to be honest.
I'm not surprised. Oh my goodness. Yes, thank you for reminding me about that. I'd totally forgotten, but we've been in sort of WhatsApp groups together, and kind of me and you have spoken quite a bit. So I think what everybody's going to be hearing from us today, because we know each other, a little bit, it's going to be really interesting, because the stuff that you do is really interesting anyway. So
yeah, hopefully.
You've worked in recruitment for a long time now, haven't you? Do you want to give us a little bit of your background?
Yeah, definitely. So what is it now? So 2012 was when I first cut my teeth. So I'll keep this as concise as possible and take you through a sort of a concise run through memory lane. But I worked in retail while I was studying. So from the age of 16, in fact, it was before I was 16, because remember, legally I had to carry a little blue card in my top pocket that said I could only work 16 hours because I was still classed as a minor. But I worked for a family-run jewellery business, so that was my first sort of snippet of real-world work, retail, while I was studying. Done my GCSEs, went on to sixth form, done my A-levels, wanted to be a physio, wanted to go over to Spain and be a physio. I was fluent in Spanish way back when. And it just shows you, which we'll probably touch on, like how careers can pivot in different directions. But wanted to be a physio, knew I wasn't quite good enough to be a footballer, decent level, but never going to make it. So the next best thing to be close to footballers was to be a physio, and to do it in a sunnier climate and use my Spanish language skills. But then that didn't happen. It was my now wife, actually, who I've been with for many years, since we were 17.
Wow, young love, eh?
Young love indeed, yeah, still going strong. 2 houses and 2 kids later, so we must be doing something right. But yeah, she spotted an ad in uni and just said, at this point I was managing the retail unit and had the gift of the gab, could listen, could empathise, all the good stuff that a salesperson needs. And she was like, listen, there's an opportunity in recruitment there for the grad scheme. I'd gone on to uni and was studying. So there's the physio idea had gone out the window, and I was always fascinated by, when you go to like supermarkets and they have them real estate models that people have carved out, and there's these little mini models. I wanted to be the person that designs them. So I was big on sort of how towns and cities take shape, walking around like major cities and just seeing the sheer architecture that fascinated me. But if I'm honest, when I was applying for uni, I seen the architecture course and it was 7 years. And I was like,
God.
I can't. A while. Yeah, I was like, I was like, I need to be out earning. I want to be like living my life. I don't want to be studying for 7 years. So I'd done sort of the fast track shortcut and done sort of an urban design and planning degree with all of the architecture modules pulled in. And ended up staying on, done my degree, done my masters, and then mid-recession 2012, just got a house. The year before graduating, there was probably 100 jobs for every one graduate, and then the year I graduated, there was probably 1 job for every 100 graduates.
Oh gosh!
I'm a Liverpool lad, born and bred. All the jobs were down in London. I had some friends down there, so I'd been a few times, and it did appeal, but I wasn't quite ready. As I say, just got on the property ladder and was like, I'm not going down to London just yet. So I was looking for the next best thing, and that's when the missus spotted this poster for a recruitment grad scheme in uni and said, you know what, recruitment, it's dealing with people, it's helping people, which is another big thing I get a kick out of life on. And she was like, why don't you have a look? And the rest's history. Spent best part of 7 years working for a global recruitment firm that was, I don't know if I can say this given we're in the sector of clean energy and renewables now, but it was focused on oil and gas. So we were working with all the big energy super majors, the Aramcos, the Shells, the BPs, helping find them talent globally. And it led to me project managing and living abroad for the best part of 2 years in Saudi, working on a big petrochemical $26 billion project. We hired near 400 people. I was a young 20-year-old lad who left the missus at home, went out and lived in Saudi on my own for 2 years and got to experience like a new culture, loved it. But then came back home. We lost our mother-in-law, which sort of helped me realise how important family was. So came back and wanted to be close to family for a while. And then literally sort of everything happened. We fast-tracked the wedding so the mother-in-law could see us get married. We fast-tracked having our first child, and she got 6 months with my little lad Connor, who's now 7. And it was at that point I was like, right, I've got a family now. I need to I need to sort of, they were my why, they were my purpose. And I think I've spoke about this to you in the past, but Connor really suffered from, he was like 3 months old, he was hospitalised and he had chronic asthma and still has, to be honest. He's doing well now, but it was like, right, I need to do something that has a much more positive impact on his life and kids like him. And it just so happens, like I'm not a petrol head. I'm not a car guy by any stretch. Could probably barely even change a tyre on the car, to be honest. And my family are the opposite. They've worked for Ford, they've worked for Jaguar Land Rover for years, and it just so happened that when I came back from the Middle East, one of our recruitment directors had said, Steve, like, listen, like, we want to build out this new automotive division. And there was all talk about hybrid vehicles at the time.
As you
and
do.
He was like, this is the future. So I started as you do the research, you look into it. And I had a chat with my granddad and said, Granddad, what do you think about electric vehicles? And typically he was like, nonsense, they'll never take off. Again, I liked the challenge and it appealed to me, and I started reading up about, cleaner fuel and zero tailpipe emissions. And it was just at the time David Hunt, the MD of our business, reached out and said, look, we're growing this new EV division. We've got a couple of flagship clients, like we need someone to come and grow the business. And it just felt like, you know the way you just feel like all the stars are aligning. It was kind of one of them moments where the stars would align, and I wanted to spend some more time with my boy, and I was travelling here, there and everywhere, sitting on the dreaded M6 and the M62.
Oh, God,
Wanted more time, and it was like perfect role, perfect timing for my family life in an industry that I felt we were at the early stages. It was nascent. There was a lot of negativity, and still is, a lot of negativity towards it. And I was thinking, you know what, I this is where I want to be. And that was when I joined David and the team at Hyperion Search. That was 2019, and we're in 2025 now. So I'm into my 6th year and loving it. Yeah,
I know. And now you're a director. Flipping out, you've done, honestly, the sort of the move forward has just been fantastic for you, hasn't it?
You know what? I think it's like anything, and my dad's always taught me this, and it's kind of a message that circulates in our organisation. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And I think for me, it was like I could have quite happily stayed at previous company. I had lovely friends there, colleagues that became friends. I was flying high. I was bringing in good revenue for the business. The only downside really was ethically, it didn't really sit with me, and also it was eating into family life. I was lucky if I was getting 10 minutes with my little boy before bed, and didn't sit right. So actually finding something that can support family life, but actually is having one of our sayings here at Hyperion is, you know, we have a genuine impact on the candidates and the clients that we serve, but it's a genuine impact on the planet as well. You know, it may seem quite cheesy, but the small part we're playing in helping drive the clean energy transition, there's a lot of satisfaction there for me. I'm creating a cleaner future for my kids. I've got a little girl now as well, Kate. She's 14 months. I'm leaving a decent legacy behind, whereas I could have sat and earned not megabucks, but earned well and been supporting the oil and gas industry, and that weren't for me, to be honest, Liz.
So I was going to say, so your main aim at Hyperion is kind of the clean tech and kind of mobility and sort of like all the renewables side and things like that, isn't it? Is that kind of so and that has that been what you've have there been any bolt-ons to that since you've actually, you know, kind of started moving in that direction?
So I think when I first joined, we had a real prestigious name in solar and PV. You know, David and Ross. David had worked in Search for many years. Became well known in sort of that solar renewable energy space, and him and Ross, who is our head of delivery. Ross was brought in as David's first hire when they launched an EPC business. They were essentially doing a lot of C&I and residential installs of solar, and scaled the business to about 50 people. And it was really buoyant with the feed-in tariffs and whatnot, and became sort of the go-to sort of installation business. We're doing some onshore wind, we're doing some batteries, we're doing some chargers, we're doing some PV, and it went full circle. When David exited that business, he got back involved in Search. Ross came across with him, and all this network, these people that they built up relationships with over the years that were within the solar industry, they had a big challenge in terms of how they were going to scale. So David's expertise in Search, Ross cutting his teeth in the search industry and recruitment space, they then supported clients and colleagues and their network to go and find the best salespeople or the best project managers or the best senior ops people to come and help their solar businesses scale. So when I joined, solar was sort of our core pillar, if you like, and where we had as big a reputation. But then we started working with, and you'll remember these businesses, but we started working with the likes of EV Box, Christoph, when they were 20 people, and they were a Dutch startup and raised a bit of money and wanted to take that product market fit in the Netherlands and internationalise it. So in the early days when I joined, you know, we were helping businesses like Energy Mobility Solutions, now known as Compleo, and Valens on the software side, businesses like ChargePoint, businesses like EV Box, Alphan, who were at the time small startups, raised a bit of money, closed maybe Series A, Series B. We were helping them scale and internationalise and find real niche key hires in new geographies that they wanted to enter but didn't have the expertise locally. And you know, we're a business that I think we've hired into 17, 18 countries internationally now, and it's almost, we're an extension to the businesses that we serve. You know, we put our clients' hat on, and I've always said I don't compete with the internal talent team or the chief people officers or the chief HR officers within my client. I see myself as wearing their logos and helping them to scale, because recruitment gets a bad name, Liz. I'm sure you've heard many people talking about it, but I think businesses that invest in the right talent partner, you know, it's worth its weight in gold. You know, people ultimately are the success drivers of a business. They're the ones that keep the lights on. They're the ones that take them from a scrappy startup in someone's garage to a unicorn. Without people, a business is nothing. So why wouldn't you want to invest in a proper talent partner that has the domain expertise like us? You know, we've got 12 years search experience in solar, but all the direct industry experience that David and Ross bring in the years that were before that. And then I've got all the experience. I think I've been working just shy of a decade now within the EV sector. We've got David, who heads up our battery storage and grid practice, who's got a similar amount of experience as myself. We've just brought a new colleague in who's been working in the global renewables space, Nikita, who's got a lot of experience in that space. And we're people that we like to say, you know, we're not in the industry to make a quick buck. We're not in the industry because it's, you know, it's the flavour of the month. It's the next best thing, and we haven't piggybacked on the areas where the growth is. We're in this industry because we genuinely believe in it. You know, we've all been driving electric for 5-6 years. We've all been banging the drum for, you know, 10 years plus. So if we can help clients really scale up and reach their growth objectives and have a genuine impact on their success, you know, it's superb.
And I love the fact that what you're kind of saying to me there is that you yourself and Hyperion you're built up as trusted partners, and you yourself are very respected in the sector, you know, which is brilliant. And I'll kind of define the difference. So I think we probably do need to define the difference between regular recruitment and what you do, because it is different, isn't it? Because actually you're looking for talent rather than kind of just advertising jobs. And, you know, I'm not saying that's not a just, because none of this is easy, but you're literally going out and finding the right people for those people, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. And look, none of it's easy, and I'm not one who's going to slag off, you know, high street.
You're not that kind of guy anyway. Seriously.
Yeah, you know, I've been there. You know, high street recruitment agencies. You know, I always say, like, if you're looking for someone who is like a proper generalist who can multitask and spin multiple plates and juggle multiple balls, use all the cliches, but you're not going to find anyone better that's worked in recruitment, because the pressure that's on them, you know, a lot of recruiters out there are competing against 10 other firms trying to find the right person. And to be honest, that's where it gets sloppy, because it becomes less about quality and more about who's got the fastest finger and who can throw enough CVs into a client's online ATS system and hopefully one or two of them will stick. That's not us. We're a business that comes in typically, as I say, you know, we don't compete against an in-house recruitment team. We partner with them in the sense of, you know, you think of a firm, we typically work with startups and scale-ups that are post-investment, and there's a number of key hires that are missing. And, you know, the founders typically that we work closely with, or the C-level that we work closely with, and, you know, they're one HR person that's typically the office manager, who's typically the payroll person or the invoice person, and the marketeer as well.
Yeah.
We're there to take that pain away and say, look, you've got so much on your plate with, you know, the internal functions that you're looking after. Let us put your company hat on, be your storyteller, and go to market. And what we do by going to market is we tell our client's story compellingly so that it reaches the people that aren't active and aren't live job seekers. It's actually, you know, if you're company A but company B is top of the shop, they're the highest performer, everyone wants their product, everyone wants their solution, everyone's working with them, they're high flying, it's actually taking the key talents from your competitors and from the companies and the adjacent and the aligned industries that make sense, and making sure that we're finding the very best people that aren't looking and convincing them that they should want to come and work for your business, because your business is the one that's going to be flying in the next few months. So it's actually reaching those, I guess, those real hard to reach talents that aren't looking, and almost trying to unlock and trying to understand, really get under their skin, what motivates them, what gets them out of bed every morning, and trying to maybe find out that a few frustrations or the things there that perhaps they could achieve elsewhere, and really finding the best talent on the market for our clients so that our clients can grow. There's clients out there that just don't get the model. There's clients out there that think they can just put a job advert on LinkedIn, sit back, and they're going to get the best people that are going to apply. There might be that rare instance where there might be that timing could be right, and someone is unfortunately maybe just being made redundant, or they're in this transition period where they've took time out, they're thinking about what could be next, and they spot it. But realistically, that's not going to happen. Partnering with a firm that knows the space, that lives and breathes the space. I mean, I'm speaking to everyone and anyone who are the real top performance, whether it's operationally, commercially, technically. I'm speaking to people day in, day out, so I'm getting insights from, you know, what's going on within that company versus what's going on within that company versus, you know, what's the market saying, and I can share all this knowledge to my client who has got so much going on internally. They haven't got the time. I was speaking to someone recently. We talk about these WhatsApp groups and these forums that we're in. There was a founder who's a successful founder, exited the business, but had a few harsh things to say about recruiters, mainly because he's had some bad experiences. But in the same breath was talking about how they were spending 40 hours a week, 30 hours a week on recruitment and sifting through lots and lots of different applications and getting nowhere and getting counter offers, or dealing with tin pot recruiters who were just using their business as leverage to try and get a better offer elsewhere. Reach out and deal with a proper firm that know what they're talking about, and we can take all that pain away, ultimately.
40 hours is a lot. It's a lot to be looking for people, isn't it? You know,
huge
and
amount of time.
And if you can take that pain away from someone and get them what they need, yes, they've got to, you know, this is all fee-based stuff anyway, isn't it? But actually, if you think about that, that's over a working week, you know. And if you've got founders who are doing all of that, then they can't do their regular job, because, like you said, you know, it's like me in a small business. You end up having to have lots of different hats on, you know. 100%. And if you've got one additional hat to, you know, you can't split yourself. You just end up slicing yourself far too thinly.
You'll be burning the candle at both ends, and ultimately, you know, if you're if you're a scale up that's just raised 100 million, and, you know, you're trying to tweak and refine your product for, you know, for one market versus the next market, and it's all heads down, literally trying to get the product right, and then you've got all your customers that you need to deliver for, you know, you've got all your different functions, you've got, you know, your commercial guys and girls trying to generate revenue for the business, and then you've got the pipeline of projects that are, you know, nearing construction and commissioning phases, and you've got your guys out in the field and your girls out in the field that are delivering. Where are you finding the time to go and hire for those real headache, hard to fill roles? You could have an internal talent team that are going to pick up, and that's where we don't tend to focus on the sort of the entry level or the mid-level roles. We will typically help support our clients focusing on the real niche senior leadership hires that are business critical, and helping them. So, you know, they may have an internal team that are focusing on the more general roles. We'll focus on the niche hires that are really becoming problematic for the business if they don't get found quickly. So that works perfectly with my next question. So what would you say the roles are that are in most demand currently, kind of as we're we're sort of building up towards 2030, aren't we? You know, and there are demands in certain sectors, aren't they, on specific areas. What are those key roles that are kind of coming up really that people are looking for? Can you share? Yeah, absolutely. I think we've gone. Let's take the EV charging infrastructure landscape just as an example. We've gone from the sort of land grab, like sort of build it and they will come, like let's go out there and stick a charger in every bay that we can phase, to actually we need to sell more kilowatt hours and we need to drive utilisation to our sites. So it becomes more around reliability, and as you've seen with the regulations now and uptime and whatnot, we need to make sure that the network is performing, it's doing what it says on the tin, and it's performing how it should be performing. So there's a big focus on asset optimization, network and asset management. Obviously there's firms out there now that are doing a real great job, and we've worked with a lot of the CPOs out there and still do, that are really, they've got great partnerships and they're delivering infrastructure, they're investing in infrastructure. So there's always going to be that need for program, project, construction, commissioning, management, and really making sure that the projects are being delivered on time, at budget, at cost. But then it becomes about managing those assets and making sure that they're running as they should be. So there's a big growth there. Obviously, we've seen some challenges with the grid, and there's a lot of reform on the horizon, and hopefully that's going to pave the way for, quicker plan and application processes, and making sure that, we can get bottlenecks reduced and whatnot. But there's going to be, I think what we're seeing now, I work quite closely with David Beeston on our grid and best practice, and there's a real need for grid connections specialists. So those that are, can understand the nuance of connecting assets to the grid, and all the complexities and the red tape that you've got to rip through in order to get a piece of renewable energy infrastructure operational and live, whether it's a AC DC charger or whether it's a big battery storage unit. The same skill sets apply. You've then got obviously the businesses. There's not many businesses out there that are making money because it's been a big period of investment over the last decade. We need to start making money. So not just bringing in commercial people who can box shift and just sell product. It's much more consultative now. It's much more long term. It's solutions selling. It's chief revenue officers, for instance, are core roles of ours that we help businesses bring in so they can help optimize that revenue engine and help businesses really get the most out of their product and their solutions. It's those commercial architects that are really setting the business up for long-term success rather than just getting some short-term low-hanging fruit wins. That's great right now, but it's the people that are going to really carve out these long-term frameworks that are 15, 20 years into the future, that are going to set the business up for success is where we're seeing a lot of attention, a lot of demand. And then one of the biggest ones as well on that utilisation piece is then how do we drive more people to our network? So, CPO, Chief Product Officer, Product Directors, Propositions, Architects, people that are going to really map out that whole customer journey and that customer experience and make sure that that's going to be the very best customer experience as possible. There's certain networks I've used, travelling, going on camping trips and commuting and travelling for businesses. There's certain networks I'll never go back to, Liz, because the customer experience was that poor. So
yeah, me too.
I guess the businesses that are investing in that customer journey and making sure that people are going to want to come back are the ones that are going to be here in the long term.
Because I was going to say, we were talking a little bit about, because you know that customer experience is kind of like my number one aim, to kind of not have it as an afterthought. And I know, and we said this before, didn't we? I said this, that driving revenue, I get it, and getting assets in the ground, that's a lot, especially the DC network, kind of anything that's an ultra rapid cost. It's not a cheap asset, is it?
Huge investment.
But you don't want to put it in the ground, and so you've got your project management piece all the way through, including grid, like you said, and getting it in the ground and connecting it. But there's, and I'm not trying to generalize here, because I have seen this. It gets to a stage where it's in the ground and they know that service and maintenance contracts that have been assigned. But it's not just that. It's that customer experience piece, isn't it? It's that, you've just literally hit the nail on the head. There are networks that you won't go back to. There are networks that I won't go back to. What I'd like to see more of is the customer experience changing. The people who are going in as customer experience officers or directors or whatever, or even, there just needs to be some, because we are seeing little pockets of kind of people who are going in as customer experience, giving them a budget, giving them a budget that is meaningful, to make a difference to the business. Because even though it's hard, customer experience is a hard one, isn't it? I think we were talking about this before we started recording, that it's hard to be able to say what revenue does that generate, but actually there are metrics that you can you can run reports. There are metrics that you can come up with that actually will track how well your customer experience is versus your utilization. Because if you've got low utilization, it probably, unless there's something very wrong, it usually means that if you've got low utilization in a high traffic area, the idea would be, to me, is look at the root cause and have a look at what is going on with that customer experience. Because there's something.
Absolutely. I think key thing there is data and insights, and we're seeing a lot more businesses focus on the data and a lot more number crunching, and it's understanding, what insights are we getting back from the utilization from the network and how can we improve that. So, the analytical skill sets that people can bring are becoming hugely sought after, and we're likely to see that to continue.
Yeah. I mean, it's also the data that you just can't run a report just like that on, because some of it's about customer sentiment, isn't it? So,
it's getting out there and speaking to drivers and understanding, what's their feedback, what's their perception, and taking all of this information and actually doing something with it. As I say, there's networks that are my go-tos because I know if it says it's going to deliver X amount of power, I'm pretty much going to get X amount of power. There's networks out there that say they're going to do one thing and you walk away or you drive away disappointed at the end of it. So,
but I mean,
we'll not mention any names.
No, we won't. We're not going to do that. But I mean, what we're talking about, what you've just been talking about earlier, though, is the ability for people to have these transferable skills that actually will work in other sectors, like EV charging, like other parts of renewables, decarbonisation, and that kind of stuff.
Exactly. It's tough as well, Liz. I get a lot of people that genuinely, like me, their kids are their purpose and they wanna work in a meaningful career, and there's nothing better for us to help people transition over. And we set up a spin-off business a while back with the Fully Charged guys, and that was exactly focused on that. It was trying to get people from outside of the sector in, and I think it's really, really tough. It's trying to hone in on those transferable skills, but I think the challenge is, a lot of the CPOs and a lot of the CPMS platforms and a lot of the big infrastructure players that invest in heavily, and they need to deliver, and they need to make sure that right the way from feasibility to commissioning and go live of their network, they need to make sure that they're delivering credible infrastructure that's going to drive people back. And often, as much as it pains me, it's difficult for people to get in without experience. I think we're seeing a lot of, and we have seen a lot of over the years, we've seen a lot of people that have moved from the solar PV world into the EV world, and now we're seeing a lot of people move from the EV world into the battery storage space. I've seen founders that we've worked with way back when that have built and scaled up EV charging hardware businesses or EV charging operations businesses that are now working for battery energy storage solutions companies, and they're deploying big battery assets across Europe because they've took all the learnings from the EV scale-ups that they've been involved in, and are now applying them to battery storage, which is a huge growth area for us because helping build resilience and additional capacity on that grid is going to be crucial, especially as we head towards those 2030 deadlines and whatnot. So it's nothing better for us to help take people outside of industry, but I'm not going to come on here and say it's easy, because it's not. It's tough, and there's lots of advice that I can give to help people get out there and put their name and put the best foot forward, and associate in the right circles. That's key. You've got to get out there, you've got to create your profile, and connect with people in the space, because if you've got a CV with no experience, and you're not really drawing out those transferable skills, you're going to suffer. It's going to be a struggle.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that phrase, doesn't it? It's not what you know, it's who you know. But actually, that is a really important thing. It is connecting with those people and making yourself be known. you know,
100%.
Especially if you're a credible, honest individual who kind of, you know, that actually you, like you're saying, you know, you want to do the best for your kids. It's the same with me. You know, I want to do the best for my son and my husband partly because of what my husband does, but actually, you know, it's also for me, and sort of like it's that that legacy, isn't it? What you can leave, and just
Exactly.
I know that I would like more people to move to EVs and to renewables and decarbonise, and I try and use this podcast to actually share the knowledge that people have got, like yours, you know, so that people understand it and there's less misinformation. Because, and I talk to the people who are honest and will come out, you know, this is the truth. All the other bits of just, please, I always say to people, please don't take notice of what is in you know, various newspapers.
That's part of the challenge, you know. Part of the challenge over the years has been the amount of people that I've engaged and tried to you know, get on board the green energy transition. You know, there's a lot of negativity out there. The media obviously is leading the way in that regards, but you know, even just like friendship circles and family. I was telling you before, my granddad like having a laugh at me when I was saying I was working in the sector. Funnily enough, I've just been for a weekend away at the golf, watching the golf. A friend of mine caddies, and another friend of mine sorted us out some tickets, and I drove down. I was a passenger and drove down with a friend of mine who's a joiner, got his own firm, and it was his first long journey in his VW e-transporter. And if you'd have asked me 2-3 years ago, would Tom, best mate of mine, be driving an electric van, I'd have said not a hope in hell, no chance. And here he is, talking about how he's got his home charger installed, how he's waiting for the smart meter to be installed so he can get on Octopus and get cheaper off-peak charging. And I'm like, am I listening to the same person that I've known for 20 years?
Yeah.
Like, where's Tom? Because
Who are you?
for years and years and years he challenged me and was like, you're in the wrong industry, you know, it's going to be one of these flavour of the month type industries, and it's going to drop off and you'll be scraping around for work. And there's no denying it's got challenging, you know. It's become much more around quality of networks, and as I said before, not just a land grab no more with regards to EV charging infrastructure, but undeniably, you know, the dominant technology for road transportation, and probably for air and sea in the long term, is going to be electrification. I'm fascinated now by, and we're doing more and more now in the fleet space with heavy goods vehicles and with logistics, e-logistics, and helping the organisations transition. It's such a complex challenge. I guess we've learned a lot from the transition with passenger cars and the public charging network for regular EV drivers like us, and putting workplace charging and destination charging. I still think there's a lot more to be done, but the next thing that's exciting me is the likes of Tom, the commercial vehicle space. You know, he's got a van, but then it's looking heavy duty, it's looking at these heavy goods vehicles. You know, I look at what Aegis Energy are doing, I look at what Mylant are doing at Europe, I look at what I was listening to a podcast with Modo Energy, what Mikey Clark at Reload Energy are doing with these clean energy hubs. There's no denying the dominant technology is going to be electric. Yes, there might be, you know, there's more, and we're getting more involved in the SAF space with HVO and synthetics and biofuels, and there's certainly going to be a place for those. But I think dominantly it's going to be electrification, and the sooner people get on board with that, the better. Yeah.
And it's great that your friend has done, you know, has made that move. You've got to tell that story that you told me before we started recording about because that was his first charging experience, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was his first charging experience, and to be honest, it was a 76-mile one-way journey, so about 150 miles round trip. We get to 200 miles range, there or thereabouts. He was fully charged before we set off. I think we had 196 miles by the time he picked me up, and then we set off for the journey. But you know, he's a tradie, so you know, he doesn't start his day without a greasy bacon and egg sandwich. So he was going to stop off anyway. So while we stopped off, it just so happened there was a 300 kilowatt motor fuel group charger. So we were like, great. I'd never used the network before. This was his first public charging experience. So to be honest, I'd been geeing myself up, saying, you know what, it's easy. You know, plug in, it's fine. And it was. You know, we plugged up, we parked up, we selected the connector, we plugged in, and it was a contactless payment, and we were charged before he was finished with his bacon sandwich. There was someone else parked in, so we didn't get the power delivered that we were expecting, but you know what, it was a good opportunity. We stopped for a bite to eat anyway, we stopped for a coffee, and we topped back up within 10 minutes, and we were back on the road, and he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe how easy it was. And I said, this is the thing, Tom, my clients, you know, the clients that I speak to, work with, hire for day in, day out, they're investing millions into making sure that the infrastructure is there to enable people like you to make the switch. And he's telling everyone now, and it's amazing. He's on site, you know, he's working, building houses and working on commercial industrial developments, and he's telling everyone on site, look how easy it is. He was putting £400 a month in fuel in his van.
Oh my good grief! Oh my God!
He was putting £400 a month, and it's probably going to cost him less than £50 now a month.
Yeah.
So I mean,
if he's got a 200-mile range, because that for us, we can get in the summer, we can get 200 miles out of ours, and it costs us £3. You know,
I can top mine up. I've got a Model 3, and with Octopus overnight, it's less than a fiver for 270 miles range. Yeah,
it makes a massive that cost saving. You know, we talk about total cost of ownership, which people, I think we need to probably, not me and you, but there needs to be more simplified understanding of what a total cost of ownership is, don't you reckon? Because I think if you've not got an EV and you just see, so people still say, oh, price of EVs are, you know, brand new EVs are really expensive, you know, and I know a lot of people buy new, and yes, they might be marginally. I think a lot of them are coming down, but I think it's that understanding of, for people who've been driving petrol or diesel for like ages, whether they've got vans, cars, whatever, to help them to understand this. This is what this means. It's not just the amount you're paying. Yes, it might be more or whatever, or marginally, whatever. It's about what you're putting in.
Exactly, and naturally, there's a lot of I guess what's the word I'm looking for? There's people are quite apprehensive about making the switch. You know, there was we won't go into the myths because I'll be honest, they bore me, and I think we're past them. But there was a lot of scepticism around range anxiety and what happens when the warranty runs out on the battery. But I just use cases all the time and say, here's a guy that I know in the industry. He's got a second-hand Tesla. He's got 220,000 miles on the clock, and it's still running like a dream, and it's still costing him a fiver to charge. You know, the second-hand market, be interesting to see how things are affected, obviously, with the electric car grant that's coming out. But the second-hand market now, we've just gone from 2 cars down to 1, and we're kind of in this transition period right now where it's a case of, do we need a second car? Can we get by on 1? We've gone from 2 EVs to the 1. And I'm looking at the second-hand market now, and for instance, you can get a I think the cheapest Tesla on Auto Trader was about 11 grand.
Yeah.
You know what? You might need to take a loan out. You know, not many people have access to 11 grand. I understand that, but some of these cars are gonna run way beyond 250, 300,000 miles on the clock. And if you can save, like my pal Tom there, my mate Tom, saving £300 odd pound, £350 odd pound a month in charging, it's a no-brainer. Tom, we were on the winding country lanes of Staffordshire, and he was just like, how easy is this to drive? How fun is it to drive? Not least how much money he's saving. I think obviously we now need to look at the heavier goods side as well, which as I mentioned before is a lot more complex. You know, the depot infrastructure that we need to put in place is going to be key. There's more models coming available. It's making sure that we've got highway infrastructure that's going to support, you know, these long routes of these HGVs. It's an exciting space, and I think, you know, we're already seeing big fleets invest heavily, and they're already seeing the benefits. So we'll see more and more follow suit.
And I think, yeah, that's this has got to be inclusive for everybody, hasn't it? And talking about being inclusive, I was going to ask you, because you know, me and you could talk like forever, couldn't we? For the last few minutes, I was going to talk to you about what you're doing in the recruitment space and how it aligns with workplace culture, because that we were talking about that before we started recording, weren't we? And what does a company culture? How does a company culture affect how somebody gains that talent and keeps that talent? Because you'll have seen this, won't you? A lot, I'm assuming.
It's huge. I think, you know, for us, one of the first things, if a client engages us, one of the first things that I want to do is try and get on site and try and understand the culture. I want to have conversations. You know, we deal a lot at founder level and C level and maybe one or two tiers below. You know, director, heads of department and whatnot. And the first thing we ask is, you know, what's your culture like? You know, what does if you're hiring a chief commercial officer, what can they expect? If you're hiring a chief financial officer, what can they expect? We want to understand the company culture, but then the departmental culture, the functions. We want to understand and sort of get to grips with the values, the ethos of the business, because selling a role to the market is one thing. You know, on paper, you know, people can put whatever they want on a CV. But, you know, if you've got a micromanaged culture, if you've got a culture that is of a certain type that doesn't sit well with, you know, the people that we're introducing to you, then, you know, it's not going to be set up for long-term success. So it's trying to align and really get under the skin of our clients and understand, you know, what are you doing for talent development internally? What does an end of quarter look like? You know, do you have company offsites? You know, if you're a fully remote team, how do you keep your employees engaged? If you're a in the office 5 days a week team, you know, what are you doing there to sort of create that sort of team collaboration? Because it can be very insular, you know, people can be head down, you know, when they're in the office, they can be head down. On the flip side, when you're in the office, people think they've got an open license to just come over to your desk and interrupt you and talk about the football or talk about everything else. So I think it's massively important. And I always ask the founder, you know, what was their story? You know, where did the business originate? Typically, most of the founders that we work with, it stems from, you know, they had a real pain, they had a problem with something, and they wanted to think of a solution to alleviate that problem. And then it's, okay, well, then trying to understand how's that business evolved, and this is what the business looks like today. Where do you see the business going in the next 5 to 10 years, and how may that affect your culture? You know, if you've gone from a UK business that's 20 employees to a business that's operational in France, Netherlands, Denmark, Germany, and you're now 500 employees, you know, how are you going to maintain that ethos of your business, that the foundations in which it was built? And if a client can't give me an answer, then we'll keep pushing, because I've obviously got a duty of care to my clients to go and find them the very best person, but I've also got a duty of care to the talents that I'm helping in the market, because I'm changing their career trajectory, and I want to make sure they're going to come in somewhere where they can thrive. And you know, most of the companies that we work with, you know, they've got fantastic cultures. Some businesses, it's been a work in progress, and you know, there's lots to juggle, and there's lots of firefighting in those early startup days, but it's setting expectations from the onset. so that when we're setting expectations to the market, they know what they're getting with. You know, if you've worked for a large corporate and you're going to come and work for the startup, it's going to be a culture shock. But as long as we have those honest, frank conversations and we set them from the onset, then there's going to be no surprises. So hugely, those that underestimate, you know, the importance of a good company culture, I think, they need to evaluate things.
Absolutely, I think culture is I think in some places it is underestimated and undervalued, but the ones that are doing it well are obtaining or attaining, you know, kind of talent, and that's what helps you to grow. So I'm going to ask you a final question then. So
sure,
we were talking about this before, and weren't we? I think you're very, what I would say, glass half full person, optimistic, you know. So what keeps you optimistic, and what, if you looked at from an optimistic point of view, what do you see what would you like to see in the next few years happen within this sector?
Great question. I think the thing for me, and I've been asked this before, I think the thing for me is I've worked in industries where money is the primary motivator, and yes, we all want a nice life, we all want to have nice shiny things, we all want to give the best when we're not here and our kids are grown up. We want them to have the best start to life as possible, like, of course, but to do that as well as doing something that is genuinely having a broad impact, I said it earlier on, and having worked as long as I've worked now, approaching a decade in the renewables, and working at driving the energy transition forward, what I'm optimistic about is genuinely the people that we've got leading the way. You know, they all want to earn money, of course they do. The majority of people, like I've just said, want to earn money, but they could quite easily down tools and go in another industry that's far more fruitful, far more lucrative. But I think it's the people that have been here for as long as I've been here and longer. You know, despite the headwinds, despite the geopolitics, despite the wars, despite the rocky road that we've been on, I guess, for the last 18 to 24 months, it's the resilience of the industry, it's the collaboration of the industry. I've never known an industry that, you know, as you said before, the industry forums that were involved in, the WhatsApp groups that we're in, you chuck in a message, you ask for help, and people can't jump on it quick enough. And that stems from the leaders that we've got at the CPOs, at the businesses that we're supporting, that have created this collaborative culture, talking about culture within their organisations, which, yes, we want to be the best. It's almost like this play nice but win attitude. You know, we want to be the very best we can, but we're not going to be, excuse me language here, we're not going to be dicks along the way. We're going to be we're going to empathise, and we're going to be helpful, and we're going to do it in the right way. And you know, I've got relationships out there with other recruitment directors and founders at other firms who will call me and I'll call them, and we'll consult on each other from time to time. If there's someone that they've got in the market that has just really had a bad turn of luck, or they were picked to the post in another search process and they couldn't help them and they've got nothing to help them, it's not unfamiliar for other businesses to call me who I've got good relationships with in the sector and say, hey Steve, I really want to help this person, can you help them? And in my old sector, you wouldn't get that. It was everyone out for themselves, whereas I think this industry is genuinely so collaborative. It gives me a lot of optimism that we're gonna hit the net zero targets that we say we're gonna hit. People are in it naturally, yes, because we all want to live well, as I say, but we all want to have a positive impact on the planet, and that ties into Hyperion's almost our value. You know, we want to have a genuine impact on the clients and candidates, but we want to have a genuine impact on the planet as well. And some may perceive that to be a bit cheesy, but for us it's not. You know, it's not. 12 months ago, you know, when things were really tough in the EV space, I could have easily down tools on UK and Europe and gone and focused on the US where all the money was pouring into, and focused in a different corner of the market. But it's not me. You know, I'm in this for the long run, whether you like it or not. And, you know, my family, you know, there's a few people I still need to convert and get on board. But as I say with my mate earlier, I look back now and the amount of people that used to laugh at me 5 years ago compared to the amount of people that are really on board with me now, who are installing solar on the roof or getting a home battery in the garage, or in some cases getting the second electric car. It just shows me that, you know what, we're doing something right. And the future's going to be exciting. As I said before, you know, we talk around the heavy duty transition, decarbonisation of the heavy goods vehicles. We haven't even scratched the surface with air and sea. We haven't even scratched the surface with other technologies, things like vehicle to grid, you know, zero energy homes where you're not gonna pay an energy bill again. This is exciting stuff.
It is. It's amazing. Honestly, I could really talk to you for like ever, because you're such a genuine and lovely guy.
Oh, thanks, Liz. Likewise.
I'm just going to say, I hope everybody who's been watching and listening has just really enjoyed listening to you, and if you didn't know this man beforehand, you now know him, because he's just such a lovely guy.
Making me blush, Liz.
Hey, stop.
You're making me blush.
So, I'm just going to say on that note, thank you, because it's just been, from the bottom of my heart, just been a joy to talk to you. Honest, we don't talk too often, do we? But seriously, this has just been lovely to talk to you, and it's nice to hear all of the wonderful stuff that you're doing. Really is. You know.
No, it has, likewise, and I look forward to grabbing a coffee in person again. It's been a while.
It's too long, isn't it?
There's so many events that come up in the calendar season now that we can't get to everyone, but definitely we'll cross paths soon, and keep doing what you're doing with a platform like this as well. You know what, fighting the good fight, and really giving people like myself and others that are leading the way in the industry to have that platform to tell others about what they're doing. You know, that's the collaborative piece that I talked about. So thank you as well, Liz. Appreciate it.
Bless you. Well, listen, so to everybody watching and listening, please like, subscribe and share. Or, you know, he's just doing, Steve and Hyperion are just doing a fantastic job. And you know that the more we get the positive word of mouth out, the more people will hopefully understand that we're talking the truth, and it's not a load of bull. So, so
exactly.
At that point, like, subscribe, share. Check out our LinkedIn page, Electric Evolution LinkedIn page, and do all those wonderful things. So, as a final note, just to say thank you to Steve, and thank you to you all for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you're a charge point operator, local authority or stakeholder in EV charging, I'd love to talk to you about our Charge Point Evolution framework. It's designed to help you create a seamless EV driver journey, boost utilisation and maximise your return on investment. Alternatively, if you know someone who'd be a great podcast guest or might be interested in sponsoring an episode, you can email me on liz@fullcircleci.co.uk. Thanks again for watching.